Hey everyone, Doing 13 here. Now, I know I did not make a video for my SmackDown recap like I normally do, but I had, honestly, I was out all day, I couldn't get to my TV on time, and my DVR didn't record SmackDown, so again, just like with Raw, I felt to be disingenuous to go just by what I saw from reviews or with just going through piecing together what I saw on YouTube. So, to make a second video this week, I'm actually going to do something a little special. I'm going to talk about my personal favorite matches. Now, a couple caveats to this. Since I am kind of a new fan again, I got back in 2014, I haven't really seen as many matches as the next person. I have really, the only match I've seen of CM Punk was the ECW One Night Stand with John Cena. Spoiler alert, that's not on here. But would like to just point out this is based on my personal conjecture, based on my personal feelings, and it's just for fun anyway. It's a way to make up for not having a video for both SmackDown and Raw out this week. With that in mind, here are my top 13 favorite WWE matches. Number 13. Number 13 is actually is a choice based on the thing of me liking both guys in terms of character, storyline at the time, and even just all around wrestling ability. It is Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens Last Man Standing match, Royal Rumble 2016. The first of two matches representing each of these guys on this list. They both appear separately in other parts. More on that you'll see later. But to me, this match was storytelling done right, with two guys who have an obvious history with each other. Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose they've known each other for a long time, and they seem like they're good friends in real life, and that translated into this match. This match was hard hitting, or physical as all get out. Both men beat the ever loving crap out of each other, and it led to one of my favorite moments. The only reason I didn't put any Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens matches in is because there was too many to count. And although I did like the SummerSlam, or was it SummerSlam or the one before after SummerSlam where Sami and Kevin had their final match. Anyway, I choose this one above all else because of in the middle of the match, in one of the best camera catch audio moments I've ever heard, Kevin yells at Dean going, "I hate you!" And Dean does very, very casually, "I hate you!" They gave it everything they could. I personally, this is one of the matches I personally say to everybody that I know that I want to get into wrestling, watch this match, because it tells a story that even if you don't know the two guys, you'll respect the style they do. That's why for number 13, it is Kevin Owens versus Dean Ambrose. I Quit match for the IC title, Royal Rumble 2016. Number 12. My number 12 is actually pretty unique because it comes from the most unlikely spots for a wrestling match, a Super Bowl halftime show. My number 12 is Halftime Heat, Rock versus Mick Foley, Super Bowl 33. One of the weirdest spots for a wrestling match, and one of the earliest I can still remember watching vividly, and it's just sticking with me for the years. I was about 6 when this match was taking place, and I remember being in one of my best friend's house for that Super Bowl Sunday, we turned on, like, while everyone else was watching the halftime show, like, we turned on the second TV to watch this. And at the time, that was the coolest thing that I had seen in the wrestling industry. My love for Mick Foley spans from then to now. He is one of my favorite talkers on the show, past, present, and future. And although I got a little tired of him as GM, I respect him as the performer he was. Same with Dwayne Johnson, which it's The Rock. You have to it's pretty much you have to like him at this point to consider yourself a true fan. Whether that's true or not, I don't care. It's The Rock. He is awesome. The match itself was actually a pretty unique setup. There was nothing holding them back. No crowd to sway the decision of the match. It was just Mick and Rock just laying at each other through an entire empty arena. I have no idea. The logistics of it must have been amazingly hard to do, but they pulled it off perfectly and left me with one of the most interesting memories of a Super Bowl I have had in my entire life, other than the game itself. So, with that in mind, I had to say that, like I said, number 12, Mick Foley versus The Rock. Can't really beat that. Number 11. My number 11 is the gem and what is universally agreed on as a lackluster WrestleMania. It is Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch versus Charlotte for the newly introduced Raw Women's Champion at the time, WrestleMania 32. I felt like last year, if you had asked me if I was sad that I didn't go to WrestleMania before the event itself, I would have said yes. It was in my home state. I was only 4 hours away, and I probably could have gone if I really wanted to. Now looking back at it, I'm glad I didn't, because this is probably the only match that I would have looked on fondly. With great reason. The women in this match all did fantastic. Seeing everything that they had worked for the months before, leading to a brand new, very, very pretty belt. I still personally love the Raw Women's Championship, and you'll see that love extend to one more match in the future. But it's safe to say for me that this match was good. This match was, like I said, the best thing that happened from the entire WrestleMania card, which, as the capstone of the women's revolution, is something that needs no more words to be said. So, that's a solid pick for my number 11. Number 10. My number 10 actually involves the person that is pretty much solely responsible for getting me back into wrestling. And that is Daniel Bryan. His match against Triple H at WrestleMania 30 is pretty much what I contribute to me wanting to be a wrestling fan again and actually watching on a weekly basis. The Occupy Raw segment that happened within a month of WrestleMania was one I finally remember watching with my friends, being completely encapsulated with. I was instantly on this guy's side when he squared up with another one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, Triple H. And this match did not disappoint. This was everything from Triple H's amazing entrance as Shao Kahn at the beginning of WrestleMania 30, to Daniel Bryan being the underdog that represented us, essentially. And him being put against the odds by Triple H by or by Trips beating him with his trusty, or with his friend, or with his trusted crowbar to basically make it impossible for him to win at the end of WrestleMania 30. That match would have probably been number 14 if I had went up to top 15. Honestly, I'm being dead serious, but I felt that I would be remiss if I didn't at least include that, or the start of WrestleMania 30, with this match. Number 9. My number 9 is actually the first of 3 NXT matches that are on this list. I felt I had to include NXT at least at some point, and I'm starting off with the NXT match that got me into that brand, and that was Sasha Banks versus Bayley, 2 out of 3 falls for the NXT Women's Championship. That match was a beauty to witness. Brooklyn was not prepared for that, and we saw a clinic on how women's wrestling and how just a 2 out of 3 falls match should be. Like, really, they both were faces, and they both are still faces, but it showed what I'm now hoping is the hint that Sasha Banks could be a beautiful heel. That she can be absolutely both evil and just, it was just so pretty for me. Like, I just love watching that match. I watch it pretty much. It's the women's match I watch if I want to see a good women's match on a pay-per-view. Now, there is one last women's match that I personally feel is better, and you'll find that out in a little bit. But as far as I can say, that seeing Bayley win the 2 out of 3 or falls match NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1 was pretty much the best match of the night. Number 8. My number 8 is actually a pretty good one. It's the last appearance on this list of one Kevin Owens, but the first appearance of John Cena. That match, Elimination Chamber 2015, John Cena versus Kevin Owens, the first of what I consider one of the best feuds of 2015. The build-up of this actually is pretty much what landed it on this list by its own merit, but the ending is great too, and I'll get to that in a second. For those of you who don't know, the build-up for this match was that after John Cena had won the U.S. title from Rusev at WrestleMania 31, he started doing a open challenge for anybody who wanted to try to take the belt off him. Basically it was his way of making the belt the thing that he knew the value he knew it should have been, and it actually helped give some gravitas to the United States Championship. The fact that that John Cena had it, and like him or not, he was the company's top guy in 2015, and the better thing was that every week consistently the U.S. matches were the best matches on Raw. Now, he does this for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden we hear Kevin Owens music. And this threw everybody off, because Kevin Owens was, at the time, the NXT World Champion. So we were everyone was confused, wondering what is Kevin jumping ship from NXT? Is he getting called up? What's going on? And Kevin Owens, being what many consider one of the best talkers on the current roster, starts off strong by saying, for those of you who don't know who I am, you're not worth my time. Because I have done this a lot longer than you. And he points at John. The the mic or the promos that these two had against each other. Kevin working mainly from, or would come out and taunt John. John would berate Kevin Owens for disgracing the United States Championship like he felt he was. All culminated in what was possibly the best match of the Elimination Chamber, because clean as a frickin' whistle, John Cena got pinned. He actually, he would go on to win later on, but for that one moment, or for that beautiful moment in time, we, as the fan base, got what we wanted, and we got a new top star in Kevin Owens, pretty much being christened by the company's top guy. And that's why I'm happily able to put Kevin Owens versus John Cena at Elimination Chamber 2015 as my number 8. Number 7. Number 7 actually holds a special place in my heart for a couple reasons. 1, it has Mick Foley in it. 2, it has Undertaker in it. And 3, in my most personal opinion, the best one, it happened on my birthday. For those of you who know exactly what match I'm talking about, you know why I'm about to praise it. For those who don't, I am talking about King of the Ring 1999, or 1998, sorry. Or Hell in a Cell, Mick Foley versus The Undertaker. AKA the match that pretty much broke Mick Foley. Now, I don't have to go on that much about this match because everyone knows about this match. Anyone who has a passing knowledge of wrestling lore knows about when Undertaker chokeslammed Mankind so hard he fell through the Hell in a Cell 16 feet straight down onto a ring. And everyone remembers 3 things from that match. They remember Foley's dive from the Hell in a Cell through the announce table. They remember the tombstone on top of that pretty much ended it for Foley or Taker. And the most important one, they remember the cell breaking and Foley getting thrown through the cell. That was not planned. That they did not rig it to do that. That was a fluke accident that ended up being one of the most not only heart-pounding adrenaline moments in wrestling history, but also one of the scariest, because we had not known that if a wrestler had legitimately died in the ring by accident. Save only for save only for Owen Hart, who has tragically suffered that had suffered that fate earlier. That match to me cemented both Mankind, Mick Foley, Dude Love, Cactus Jack, whatever you want to call him. It cemented him as one of the most hardcore guys in the world to anybody who had laughed at his nickname as being the Hardcore Legend, because he was able to survive that. And the match, or to me, the image that is forever ingrained in my mind is of The Undertaker looking down, wide-eyed at what had just happened in front of him. And finding out later that when asked about it, he actually legitimately was crying, or was worried that he had accidentally killed one of his friends. That in itself, as well as what happened during that match, or throughout the entire thing, because it was more than the dive. and the Crash. That match itself was memorable for multiple reasons, which is why I safely put it at my number 7 pick. Number 6. My number 6 is actually the only time the Intercontinental Championship appears on this list. It is the Intercontinental Championship ladder match, WrestleMania 31, which saw, if I forget anybody, I'm sorry, but it saw Dolph Ziggler versus Dean Ambrose versus Luke Harper versus Stardust versus Daniel Bryan versus R-Truth. This 6-man tag was probably the perfect way to start off which will pretty much be known as a fantastic Mania looking back on it. A lot of people didn't like it at first, but upon what we've seen throughout the years, this was actually a very good show. Honestly, one of the better ones I've ever seen live. And this set the mood perfectly. The spots that they did were fantastic. Or Dean getting pretty much destroyed on the ladders by Luke Harper. Or Stardust bringing out the dusty ladder. That was both touching and also bittersweet, considering that we had just lost him. The beauty, or no, the dusty ladder was the year after, I believe. The beauty that is the ending, at least, of Daniel Bryan holding what we didn't know at the time, but would be his last championship, and standing tall on his last WrestleMania. Not knowing what we know now, even then, when I watched it live, I knew that this was a special moment, because it had cemented Daniel Bryan as one of the best performers at WrestleMania history, winning the Grand Slam at the biggest stage of them all. It's a great match. That I watch fondly. That's why I give it my number 6 pick. Number 5. Now we get to the fun stuff. My top 5 wrestling matches. And to start off, I'm starting with what is possibly the best match we have ever gotten on free TV in recent memory. And that is the Sasha Banks versus Charlotte no disqualification match for the Raw Women's Championship. This was, by all accounts, one of the most tense matches on Raw. And it was, the build-up for it was really good, for my opinion. Sasha Banks and Charlotte had possibly the best rivalry last year. And I'm not ashamed to say that. They worked the best rivalry on Raw. And they were even featured in the main event all but maybe 3 times, including this one. And because of that they went out on a high note. I believe this is the last time that they fought each other in singles competition for the belts on a regular show. And they went out like I said, they went out with a bang. Or rather, they went out with Charlotte being drugged through a steel handrail, being bent backwards, tapping out to Sasha Banks for Sasha to win the belt. On top of all of that, at the end of the moment when everything seemed like it couldn't have gotten any better for Sasha, Ric Flair's music hits, and Rick comes out, gives Sasha a hug, and personally hands her the belt. saying you deserve this in front of his own daughter. It was possibly one of the like everything that had happened up to that point between Charlotte and Rick pretty much built to that. She might have been sad that it happened, but she couldn't really say it wasn't deserved. It was a great match. Like I said, the best one I've seen on free TV in a long time, and it'll probably be hard for them to top it. But I do hope that they do someday, and especially with the women's division. So, with that in mind, my number 5, like I said, Charlotte versus Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship, no disqualification match. Number 4. My number 4 is actually a very sentimental match for pretty much everybody who has seen it. It was the end of an era match, or Triple H versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 28, Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels is the guest referee. This was possibly the last great Undertaker match. Sad to say, he couldn't top this one, and honestly, I don't think even Triple H can top this one in terms of sheer spectacle that it caused. The match itself, the build-up was fantastic. Shawn trying to convince Triple H to back out of the match because he felt that if he couldn't do it, or Triple H couldn't do it, or them realizing that at the end that they were never gonna top this, and that hug at the top of the ramp that it felt so natural. Everything that had happened in that match felt letting it to happen. Shawn getting a Sweet Chin Music one last time on The Undertaker just to try to help his friend out, and that failing. Or Hunter trying in vain to pin The Undertaker, even going so far to use his own move against him, and still not coming up short. The fact that they both had to help each other out of the ring, everything that had happened to that point was beautiful. It is storytelling perfection, in my opinion, for a wrestling match. Like I said, the best Undertaker match I have ever seen. No disrespect to Shawn Undertaker 25 or 26. That I think Triple H versus Undertaker with Shawn Michaels as a guest referee is the best Undertaker match, the best Triple H match. It was beautiful in my eye. That's why I proudly give it the number 4 spot. Number 3. My number 3, this is where I get excited, because I actually have 2 NXT matches back to back, and they both involve the same person, and that is Shinsuke Nakamura. There is no way in hell or in heaven that I would not want to talk about Shinsuke. Every match he's been in so far has been beautiful. His showmanship, his entrances, everything that he has done pretty much has outshone everything else that weekend. Or everything he's been involved in has been the best match, or one of the best matches of that pay-per-view weekend. And we're gonna start off with the one that started it all: Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn for NXT TakeOver Dallas for WrestleMania 32 weekend. The match that pretty much broke WrestleMania 32, because from the entrances you knew no one was going to be able to top it. Heck, basically it was the match that not only cemented Shinsuke Nakamura as one of the best overall performers in the wrestling industry, but it cemented the legacy of one of NXT's most beloved superstars in Sami Zayn. The beauty of the match, in my opinion, the first what could have been the first 5-star match of NXT's history, was cemented by the entrances. Sami coming out to a hero, basically like a hero's welcome. Or in Dallas, the crowd was loving Sami, and as much love as they gave to him, the instant that the crowd heard that violin, they loved Shinsuke Nakamura. They were chanting his name. The match was pretty much delayed for like a minute and a half of nothing but people chanting Sami Zayn or Nakamura Sami Zayn. It was beautiful. Every spot was done perfectly. I'm honestly surprised it wasn't a 5-star match, because it was in my mind. What truly cemented this match in my or beating pretty much everything that had happened at the WrestleMania the next night was the show of respect from Shinsuke to Sami. Sami kneeling down or sitting down in the corner of the ring. Shinsuke coming over, shaking his hand, helping him up, giving him a hug, and letting Sami have his last moment in an NXT ring, basically cementing the legacy that he would leave behind for that company. That's why I could gush about this match all day, but that is why that is easily my number 3 match. Number 2. Now there is only one match in my mind from the history of NXT that was better than Shinsuke Sami, and that is NXT TakeOver Orlando, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Bobby Roode for the NXT Championship. And that one was almost beat out by its San Antonio counterpart, but you'll see why I didn't want to choose San Antonio in a second. Anyway, that match built on the beauty that was the Shinsuke Bobby Roode feud. Pretty much cemented was the swan song for Shinsuke Nakamura, having one of the best years in NXT history. Coming out so strong and ending so beautifully. Compared to his entrances previously with the belts, Shinsuke's entrance was subdued. And true to form and true to everything that I hoped he would be, Bobby Roode came out to one of the most breathtakingly beautiful entrances I have ever seen in an NXT ring. This match was hard hitting. It was downright barbaric at one point with Bobby mercilessly going after Shinsuke's leg, taking all the power from his Bamae knee, or the Kinshasa as the NXT announcers call it. It was almost sickening to watch at times, but that was what made it so beautiful in my mind. Bobby is over as hell in the NXT audience, but he knows that that no matter what, he is a heel, and he is exploiting that perfectly. The finality that was Bobby winning, leading to everybody in the arena singing his theme song to him. They could have cut the music and just let the NXT audience go for or sing for it, and he would not have cared. he knew he had the crowd in the palm of his hands, and that Shinsuke had given him a well-earned victory. So, it is, honestly, like I said, it was hard for me to choose between this one and its predecessor to San Antonio, but I have to give my number 2 to Bobby Roode versus Shinsuke Nakamura, NXT TakeOver Orlando. And my number 1 is... So this is it, my number 1 pick. And I will admit that while there is a little bit of bias considering that I was there, I justify it in saying that these are two of the best superstars on not only this list, but in wrestling in general. These guys are the pretty much the faces of the SmackDown brand right now, and have been for the last year. Of course, I am talking about John Cena versus AJ Styles for the World Championship at Royal Rumble 2017. Now, like I said, I was actually at the Royal Rumble, so I saw this live, and that doesn't influence my decision. But seeing it again with the commentary, seeing it at the right angle was everything that I saw. This was probably one of the best, most hard-hitting matches I have ever seen. This was no joke, in my opinion, the perfect ending of their rivalry. John and AJ had stole SummerSlam. They had stole Extreme Rules. They had done everything right, in my book. They were a fantastic rivalry with each other. John pretty much cementing his legacy as the greatest wrestler of all time, tying Ric Flair's record for 16 world champions, which I am convinced at this point he is going to get his number 17 next year. I don't care who it's against, but that will happen. That was, in my opinion, one of the best, or the best paced, best all-around matches of the Royal Rumble. So much so that even asking some of the guys that were sitting next to me, and asking some of my friends who were at the Rumble with me at different areas, it pretty much wiped out our voices just by the sheer number of cheering amount of cheering that we did that weekend, or that match alone. And I will tell you flat out, if you have never seen John Cena's entrance live, I have been to basketball games, I've been to baseball games, I have been to football games, hockey games, the amount of pure noise, not cheers, not boos, just noise, is enough to not only blow out your eardrums if you're not prepared for it, but chill you to the very core of your being. I swear to God, not only was I able to feel it, I was able to taste it. It was potent. It was beautiful, honestly. Because no matter if you like him, hate him, or love him or hate him, John Cena coming out is one of the best things we will ever see in sports entertainment. And the match was almost delayed 5 minutes with the crowd completely hijacking it. Because this is the match we wanted to see. This is the stage we wanted to see it in. An arena, a football arena packed to the brim with nothing but WWE fans cheering on their two favorite guys. This was what wrestling was built on. This match will go down in history, in my opinion, along with Hogan Rock, Hogan Andre, Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ultimate Warrior. This will be the cornerstone of every match or in every great match in the history of the industry. And that's not even counting the ending. Yes, John Cena winning deflated it just a tad for me. But at the same time, I don't really mind because of the history the history making moment it was, and the fact that John had to work for it. AJ did not let up, and John had to pull stuff out of his arsenal that we have not seen in years. He did some spots that I didn't even know he could do. And the final way he did it was with the AA rolling him up again on his shoulders, doing another AA just to make sure he stayed down. That was amazing. You may have been booing him when he got out. You may have been booing him throughout the match every time he did something. But by the end of that match, he had turned you into a fan, if you weren't already. And that is not degrading AJ Styles either, because it takes two people to make a beautiful match, and everything AJ did was fantastic too. Kicking out of seemingly everything that John could throw at him, and throwing John everything he had as well, was just fantastic. Like I said with the Bobby Roode match, or the Shinsuke match, or Shinsuke Sammy match, I could gush about this for hours, or to anybody who would listen. But I'll close with this: if the match is so good that the main part, or it is not even your main pay-per-view main event, and people are still talking about it, that says a lot. And to me, John Cena versus AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble 2017 will go down as one of the greatest matches of all time. Anyway, this has been my top 13 favorite wrestling matches. I have been Deluna13, and I will see you guys later.